in there as well. He ends up no higher than number 5 in the factual correct. This is the right one. Anyone who also puts out a list that's different is wrong. Greatest pro football quarterbacks of all time. Sorry, I crack myself up every once in a while. All right, so we're moving on to number 4, and this is going to spark a lot of people. But number 4 is, in fact, Joe Montana. Why is Joe Montana not number 1? Scotty Ball, you're insane. This is ridiculous. Well, I'll tell you why. Joe Montana was the product of a system, and Joe Montana had an insane supporting cast around him. Okay? Joe Montana was a great player. He was dominant in his time, won 4 Super Bowls, a bunch of Super Bowl MVPs, some regular season MVPs. But he had the greatest receiver of all time in Jerry Rice with him. He had John Taylor alongside of that. He had Dwight Clark making one of the greatest catches in NFL history against the Cowboys. He had Roger Craig and Tom Rathman. He had a good O-line. He had a revolutionary genius coach in Bill Walsh that could out-scheme and game plan and play call anybody in the league at the time. He always had a good defense as well. When he left the system, he was a shell of himself. Didn't, light it up individually statistically the way that a lot of other people on this list did. Not to say he didn't do it, but not to the extent that many of the other names we're talking about here did. And so that is why Joe Montana is number 4. Do not overrate him because he was 4-0 in the Super Bowl as a starting quarterback. Stop it already. Okay, by that regards, then if that's your only argument, then by that regards, Trent Dilfer was a better quarterback than Fran Tarkington because Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl and Fran Tarkington didn't. You're stupid. Okay, just shut up with it. Montana's number 4, and that's what you're getting. So we move on to the illustrious top 3, which Joe Montana's not in. That's right, Joe Montana is not one of the 3 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Live with it. Deal with it. Punch your computer. Go rage out somewhere. If let me know on social media if you think I'm crazy. Please, that'd be awesome. I would love it. But so we are moving to the top 3 and greatest pro quarterbacks of all time. And number 3, this man is better than Joe Montana. Tom freaking Brady. Did you see that? It was a perfect spiral. Tom Brady. That's right, Deflategate and all. Softballs and all. Tom Brady, with his incredible success, team success, championships, and appearances, and just overall winning record year after year after year after year after year. His individual numbers are incredible. He's done it with so many different combinations of people, and the role on his team has been huge. Honestly, Tom Brady maybe should be number 1 on this list, and I might have just put him at number 3 simply because I don't like him as much as the 2 guys I have ahead of him. That's very possible. I will admit to that potential biasness. Yeah, because what knock do I have on Tom Brady? I don't know. I guess just the talent level, the overachieverness of it all, performing above your skill set, which is, your skill set's average. Like your arm strength, your accuracy, your mobility, all that stuff, Tom Brady. It's average. But somehow you get the results out of it, time after time after time. And that's remarkable. But so that, I guess, is my only knock and where I can justify putting him at 3 and not number 1. So now we get into my top 2. So, number 2 on my list, and this is going to shock a lot of people. Hopefully you know who it is, though, because you've been paying attention to all the names I mentioned, and you're like, okay, there's at least 2 names I can think of that he hasn't said yet. Number 2 is, in fact, Johnny Unitas. That's right, Johnny U is the 2nd greatest quarterback of all time. And here's the reasons why, okay? Not only was he a champion, okay, the only thing working against Johnny U, the only reason Johnny U isn't unquestionably the greatest quarterback of all time is because his career started about 5 to 10 years too soon. Prior to the Super Bowl era. His career was ending as the Super Bowl era began. And that is the only reason that Johnny Unitas is not unanimously the greatest quarterback of all time. Had Johnny Unitas' entire career and all of his championships been in the Super Bowl era, mark my words, he'd be almost unanimously, with the exceptions of people who want to put, Brady or Montana over him or whatever. He'd be my number one greatest quarterback of all time. He had the talent. He had the winning and the success. He was his entire team. The role he played was he was everything. But here is where he really stands out to me. Johnny Unitas invented what is still today the prototypical quarterback. Your pocket passing, field general leader quarterback. Your play calling and audible calling at line of scrimmage, reading defenses, your drop back and survey the field and make the right timely decisions and be able to make every throw. If you have to, be able to relocate and scramble and move with your legs, but using that almost always to still continue the throw and not just take off running like most of the people in his generation would do. Like Johnny Unitas invented and is the mold for the prototypical quarterback that is still used today in 2016. And he was doing this in the 50s and 60s. So boom, Johnny Unitas, second greatest quarterback of all time. So here we are, end of the show, end of the segment. Number one greatest quarterback of all time, according to yours truly, Scotty Ball. And again, this might be partially biased. John Elway. That's right, the great horse himself, John Elway, the greatest quarterback of all time. What couldn't John Elway do on a football field from a playing the position standpoint? Could literally do everything. How competitive was his team? In the playoffs, playing for conference championships, playing for Super Bowls every year. Now, for a long time, they lost all those Super Bowls. 0-4. Elway might have been 0-3. They might have went to one before Elway. I'm not sure. I'd have to check that, and I don't have time right now. Don't know it off the top of my head. But regardless, the guy was doing everything he could. It's a team sport. No one player, regardless of what position you play or how great you are at it in pro football, can win a game. That's just the fact of it. You need to accept that. And that's, again, plays into my feelings on Montana, primarily, more so than Brady. But eventually what happened, Elway got to the end of his career and got a team around him and was the best player one of the best players in the twilight of his career that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Granted, I'm only, in my mid-30s, so it does limit some of the players I've seen. But what happened then, he wins back-to-back Super Bowls when he finally gets a team around him, a little bit of team around him. Not even at the prime of his game anymore. With no team around him at his prime, he could take, a team that should be picking in the top 5 of the draft and have them in the Super Bowl year after year. Yes, that's right. Sorry, I just insulted everyone else on those Broncos teams in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. But too bad. That's just the way it is. It's the facts. Okay, John Elway was everything. He was the entire team, not even just somehow he was the defense too. He was the entire Broncos organization. The face of an organization. Like I said, physically could make every throw imaginable and every athletic play with his legs as well. Phenomenal mind for the game, phenomenal leader, MVP, winner. Just there's no weak links. All you can say is, mistakes he made and games he lost in the first 2/3 of his career where he didn't win. That's all you could hold against him. But why didn't that happen? Because he was trying to make everything happen, and his team had no business even playing in those games in the first place. The only reason they were there in attendance, participating, was because of his unparalleled greatness at the position. So boom, there you have it. Greatest NFL quarterbacks of all time according to yours truly, Scotty Ball. That's it for this week's show. Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. Go easy on the green beard, don't you know? Well, that was half Irish, half Minnesotan. Yeah. Yeah, kiss me, I'm an Irish Minnesotan, eh? But anyway, as always, thanks for tuning in, finding your way to the show, whether it be on SoundCloud, YouTube, or my favorite, the Spreaker app. Like and friend me on Facebook, Scotty-Ball. Follow the show on Twitter at BDST Show. Stay tuned for updates on when we'll be back on internet radio, and it sounds like those will be airing on Thursday nights every week. So stay tuned for that on social media. And until next time, I'm Scotty Ball. I'm out of here. Have a great weekend. Peace.